What if the relentless chase for perfection is the very thing keeping you from your purpose? Meet Kayla Logue, a best-selling author, nonprofit founder, and powerhouse behind JETSET Pilates. Her journey began not in a studio, but in a mindset, one shaped by striving, self-doubt, and the exhausting weight of constantly doing it all right. And then came the shift. Kayla realized that resilience isn't about pushing harder, it's about surrendering the mask. Deeper healing doesn't come from control, but from expression, community, and courage. Through her studio, she redefines what fitness means, creating space for emotional strength, not just physical. Through her nonprofit, Move Into Words, she amplifies stories that often go untold, showing others are not alone. And through her book, Always Squeezing Lemons, she opens a raw, relatable window into the grit and grace of personal transformation. Kayla's life work is no longer about perfection. Instead, it's about presence, connection, and the kind of power that only comes when we stop pretending and start truly living. This is a story about healing in motion, building a life that moves with intention, and helping others do the same. And before we start this episode, a quick word from our sponsor, Deep Wealth, and the 90-day Deep Wealth Mastery Program. Here's Jane, a graduate who says, and I quote, "The Deep Wealth Mastery Program prevented me from making what would have been one of the biggest mistakes of my career. I almost signed on the dotted line with an unsolicited offer that I now realize would have shortchanged my hard work and my future had I accepted that offer. Deep Wealth Mastery has tilted the playing field to my advantage." Or how about Lynn? Wow, he gets right to the point, and I quote, "Deep Wealth Mastery is one of the best investments ever made because you'll get an ROI of 100 times that. Anyone who doesn't go through this will lose millions." And as you're listening to these testimonials, are you wondering if you have the time? Are you even thinking that you've got this covered? You have the advisors or people in your network? Well, I got to tell you, these myths, they're often behind the 90% failure rate for liquidity events. Think about it. You have one chance to get it right for your financial freedom. You really want to make it count. And when it comes to time, let's hear what William has to say. We just got in this testimonial. William says, and I quote, "I didn't have the time for Deep Wealth Mastery, but I made the time and I'm glad I did. What I learned goes far beyond any other executive program or coach I've experienced." So what do you think? As I hear that, that's exactly what gets me out of bed every day. That's my mission. That's the team's mission here at Deep Wealth, to literally change the social fabric of society, one business owner at a time, one liquidity event at a time. And my Deep Wealth Nation, what I want you to know, the Deep Wealth Mastery Program, it isn't theory. It's from the trenches. It's the only one based on a 9-figure deal. And that deal, that was my deal. You know my story. I said no to a 7-figure offer. I created a system that later on, myself and my business partners, we said yes to a different buyer, a different offer, a 9-figure deal. That's what we now call the Deep Wealth Mastery Program, or the Scale for Ultimate Sales system. It's built by business owners for business owners. So if you're interested in growing your profits, for preparing for a future liquidity event, and that may be 2 years away, it could be 22 years away, whatever the time may be, you want to do this now, and you want to optimize your post-exit life. Deep Wealth Mastery is for you. To get started, email success@deepwealth.com. Again, that's success, SUCCESS, at deepwealth.com. You'll receive all the information about the Deep Wealth Mastery Program, or better yet, why not hop on a complimentary strategy call? We'll go through exactly where your business is today and what's standing between you and your financial independence and your dreams. So that's where you want to be. You want to be with other successful business owners, entrepreneurs, and founders just like you. They're looking to grow their businesses, create market disruptions, and unlock their financial freedom to get what they deserve. And whether you've been in business for 3 years, 40 years, you're a startup, you're in manufacturing, you're in high tech, low tech, whatever the case may be, come on in and network with other business owners. It's a safe space. It's a confidential space with business owners, with businesses just like you, because they all want to lock in their financial freedom and enjoy both success and fulfillment. So again, the 90-day Deep Wealth Mastery Program, it has your name on it. All you need to do is take the next step. Please send an email to success@deepwealth.com. Deep Wealth Nation, welcome to another episode of the Deep Wealth Podcast. For all you entrepreneurs out there, let me ask you this. how is your KPIs around your health doing? How is your business doing? Because the two are linked, believe it or not. And in the House of Deep Wealth today, we have a fellow entrepreneur who is doing some incredible things, a fellow author who has some amazing information that we'll share with you. But let me put a pause in it. Kayla, welcome to the Deep Wealth Podcast. An absolute pleasure to have you with us. There's always a story behind the story. So, what's your story, Kayla? What got you from where you were to where you are today?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm happy to be here. And it's interesting because I get this question, and as entrepreneurs, I think obviously we go through multiple phases of life, and I feel like we live multiple lives all the time in one. And when I reflect not only in my entrepreneur journey, but kind of like my own personal journey, it really started about 5 years ago when I made a huge life shift. I decided to completely start over. I was in a marriage and a job and everything that really just didn't align with who I was and really what I wanted, and started over at $900, had no direction, really didn't know what I wanted. It was in the midst of COVID. So, that didn't necessarily help. And from there, really started asking myself the deep questions of who I was, what I really wanted, and what would that look like as I started building out things. And over the past 5 years, have become really high up in real estate, luxury real estate, did very well financially there. And then now really transferred. I wrote a best-selling book, and now my energy is really focused in developing multi-unit franchises for JETSET Pilates, and also my nonprofit Moving Towards, which is all about cultivating a community for young professionals to thrive physically and mentally. I'm definitely in those kind of starting phases in terms of my larger, bigger picture of those businesses. So it's kind of cool to see that full circle. But in short summary, as much as I can summarize it, that's kind of the story behind the story.
Wow, so much there. And Kayla, let me ask you this. As you were growing up, was there a particular moment or was it a series of moments that gave you that, hey, I'm going to be an entrepreneur? Because being an entrepreneur is not for most people, but
Yeah.
for some people, perhaps they're born that way or they have a life-changing incident. Where is it with you?
I think it's definitely more of a series of moments. I don't think there was like one moment I just woke up and was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be my own boss. I think the more as I've gotten older and the more I understand like how much I appreciate my own time freedom, how much I like to make my own decisions. And I really reflect on my childhood as being an athlete my whole life. I've always had the mentality, I've always had that grit. I'm very competitive, but it really more in a very healthy competitive way as well, that have really shaped me as I'm definitely an entrepreneurial person. I'm not an employee. I never could be. And I also have realized for me that where I get my deep satisfaction is not only taking care of myself and really what I want, but being able to help others. And everything that I'm doing is really helping other people become the best versions of themselves through fitness mentally and physically.
And Deep Nation, go to the show notes. And in the show notes, there'll be a number of links, but one of them is for Kayla's book, Always Squeezing Lemons, Taking Responsibility to Define Your Own Success. It's a terrific read. We're going to be talking about that. But Kayla, let me ask you this. When you think about success and you look at your success, and it wasn't a straight line, you had many zigs and zags, what some people would call so called failures, really opportunities that you capitalize on. What does success mean to you today, and how has that changed? Or perhaps maybe it hasn't changed.
Yeah, I think it definitely does evolve. And for me now, it's one, being able to wake up and obviously prioritize my health mentally and physically. If I can't show up as the best version of myself and really dump that energy into me, I'm not going to be that for anybody else. So I do treat my health as a number one priority. And that does, even kind of how you started the show off, that does transfer into everything else in terms of the energy you're putting and pouring into your businesses. So, that when I can wake up and be healthy and feel great mentally and physically, that is huge success for me. But also now it's becoming, where can I prioritize my time in terms of efficiency and being able to delegate accordingly. So I do have time for the other things I value, which is my friends, my family, the time and space that I can spend there. So as I continue to grow in my entrepreneurial journey, I do really prioritize the thing that I deeply value and how can I spend more time and energy and show up as present as I can there. And to me, that is success, is being able to do what I want when I want to do it for as long as I want to do it with whoever I want to do it. And putting myself in those positions, be able to do that too, is really important to me.
As you've gotten to where you are, let me ask you this, because when I was reading your book, At the very beginning, if I'm not mistaken, it may have been in the introduction or perhaps in the first chapter, you're talking about your schedule. And we're looking at some early hours. I can certainly relate to that 3 a.m., 4 a.m. And then you're just burning it at both ends all the way through to late in the night. Looking back at that, what has that taught you in terms of success and business and health? And is there a blending? I don't believe in a balance, but what's that blend for you? Because I've been there and I've made my own
Yeah.
mistakes and continue to learn from them. What's that like for you? Because as entrepreneurs, we often just keep on pushing it until sometimes the body says, hey, I don't care what your agenda is. This is my agenda and this is stopping now. And that's
Yeah.
not a good thing.
I think for me, it's really being present with what burnout. If I feel that coming on, it's actually taking a break and just shutting off and shutting down and really regrouping. I used to not turn it off. I used to not really know how to turn it off. And I definitely say I've gotten much better at that than I ever have been. I'm busier and more focused and have a lot more going on now than I probably ever have in my entire life. And I'm still a lot better at prioritizing my self-care, my sleep, my rest, my recovery. And because I have been burnt out and I've been truly burnt out to the point that you wake up and you just can't do anything. Like you are just shut down. And that's a lot less productive than just taking a couple hours that maybe you feel like you don't have to really truly reset and decompress. And the world doesn't stop, like really kind of removing yourself from, of course, there are priorities and things have to get done. But at the end of the day, they will be there. So kind of grounding and just focusing on what you need in that moment and being present with where you're feeling it, why you're feeling it, and actually acting accordingly, not just allowing yourself to truly burn out. So I've been a lot better about that.
And would there be one thing that worked really for you that you might be able to share with the Default Nation of, hey, I was doing this, but when I either stopped doing this or I started doing, that's where I began to see some huge improvements?
Yeah, honestly, journaling has really been a practical tool for me that really helps me not only like decompress, but gain clarity on things that maybe one, I'm overwhelmed with, or two, isn't aligning with what I'm doing. And for me, I always, when I feel really overwhelmed or even starting to feel a little bit burnt out, I do start just almost brain dumping my thoughts. And that does help me not only make moves, but it does help me gain that clarity I need to know of, okay, where am I feeling this burnout most, or where is not really aligning with what I need to be doing right now? What's not my priorities? And for me, that's been one of the most practical, easiest, I'd say most underrated tools for like true mental declutter, but also just really feeling good. I don't know. For me, I get so vulnerable with the pages. I just put everything on that piece of paper and it feels like I just like completely purge what I need to do. So that's really been a really practical tool that's been amazing. And truly, I believe everyone needs to do it in their lives.
Okay, so journal perhaps is doing an emotional or mental dump onto whether it be paper or our favorite application or app or digital
Yeah.
program just to clear the mind and get that going. So you have JETSET Pilates. You've written a remarkable book. You've got your move into words for your nonprofit. Who's Kayla? What's this really all about? If you took a step back, what would you say? What's the quick narrative on that?
It's been really cool because as entrepreneurs, I think a lot of the times, at least for me, like I knew I wanted to do my own thing. I didn't really know what that looked like, but I've been able to align everything that I'm doing with things that I again truly value. I truly value health. I truly value physical health. I truly value mental health. And I do really get the most satisfaction from being able to help others. And when I'm able to do something that not only I'm able to grow businesses, I'm able to do things that are obviously putting money in my pocket, but I'm able to do them in ways that sometimes are the best part of people's days and make them better versions of themselves. So when it comes down to me, like I find pouring into myself more and being able to pour into others has really helped me too. But everything I'm doing, I truly am passionate about. I love. And so I wake up every day and I'm working my butt off, but I don't feel like I'm working. And you hear that. And I really didn't understand what that meant until I started working with like building out JETSET and building out Move Into Words and writing my book. I didn't really understand what not really working meant. And it's really cool. You become obsessed with what you're doing because you just truly are so passionate about it. And you see the end in sight and not even the end, you just see the growth. And I think that's really for me. I love growing, I love building, and I love being a part of something that I know is impactful for other people.
And so, with that in mind, let's turn to your book for just a moment. Again, Default Nation, go to the show notes, always squeezing lemons, taking responsibility. Love that because today, particularly with social media, it's so easy just to point the finger or to say something negative about someone. It's really effortless, almost too effortless to do that. Perhaps a bit of an unfair question. Loved each of your chapters, the 12 chapters, because each one is really, it's a strategy. Strategy for business, a strategy for life. And the unfair question, I suppose, is there a favorite one that you have? So from all the strategies that you're talking about, all the chapters, is there one chapter, one strategy that you really, it stands out for you more than the others?
I think it's interesting. I actually have never been asked that question, and I love that question because, and I love the way you break it down, actually, even my book being a strategy, because it really is, because it's not sequential and it kind of goes up and down. I really do love the last chapter because it really talks about manifestation and not being like the woo-woo manifestation piece. It's really about dreaming, defining, and doing it. And I write those like 3Ds down and being coming very clear on what that looks like. And I think it's something that we all should apply because when we think about manifestation, I think we all have different feeling and things of it. But for me, I know until I started really believing, not only just like taking these thoughts and putting them to words, but like really deeply believing and like continuing to reiterate that in mind, nothing really changed for me. And then when I took these things that maybe at the time seemed just crazy, which really it did, I had no money, I didn't know what I was doing, I didn't have a job. And I was like, I'm gonna write a book and I'm gonna make this money and I'm gonna do this. And now I'm doing all these things, right? But it wasn't until I deeply believed in myself and started acting accordingly, did these things start coming to fruition. And I think everybody that, if whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're just starting, whether you're way in your future journey, it's so important to continue that belief in yourself and so important to continue to visualize what you want and start taking actions to get there. And so for me, I think that chapter really stands out. And I think it can be applicable to anybody.
The infamous 3D framework, dream, define, do it. Love
Yeah.
that. And actually, it's a great segue because you also, with all the other things that you're doing, you have your deep squeeze system. And I love it because you're helping young leaders, entrepreneurs. And I've been there. We feel there's so much to do, so little time. Mental health goes, physical health goes. We're not getting the results that we want. And again, it's perhaps an unfair question. And you'd be completely right to say, Jeffrey, every entrepreneur is different. They're on their own journey. It's not a one size fits all. But that said, if you took a step back, very high level, and maybe it's the Pareto's law, the 80-20 system. Yeah, Jeffrey, 20% of the same actions, perhaps inactions, are causing 80% of these problems. Are there certain patterns that you're seeing when you're helping entrepreneurs really get the best out of them? The deep squeeze system, your method behind the madness with all that. What are you seeing?
Yeah, I mean, and I don't think it's an unfair question at all. I do think there are kind of some consistencies. And I think for me, what I realize a lot of it does start with mindset. And it's almost getting them out of their own way. And it's getting very clear as well as what you really want. Because I think it's easy, especially even with social media now, to see the shiny objects and you want the success before you even realize what that success journey looks like. You don't really know how you're going to get there. You know, you want these things, but you're not clear on how to get to these things. And also, like, you start to more so, I think a lot of people, when they start out, and that's usually I work with kind of like the newer, kind of trying to get clear on what their goals and everything looks like. They're just thinking about the high level success. They're not thinking about the journey. They're thinking about the mountaintop. So they're almost skipping the climb. And for me, I find I have to regroup them down to, okay, what does that climb look like? And you have to, the whole part is you need to enjoy the journey. If you're not enjoying the journey, you're never going to reach the mountaintop. And if you do, it's going to be not very rewarding. So kind of almost like regrouping them back to the clarity piece of, okay, what do you really want to do? And why do you want to do it? I know what you want, but how are we going to get there? And what does that really look like? And what does that mean to you? And so it's more of that deeper level, kind of allowing them to become obsessed with the journey before they even think about the reward of it.
And so, with that in mind, walk us through your system. So I'm coming to you, and again, just generally speaking, we're now going to do, and I love how you're really pairing off of everything, the deep squeeze system. So what
Yeah.
does that look like? How long does it take? What can I expect? What's some of the, if we take back the curtain and we roll it back, what's going on behind the scenes that you're really going to give me some of that clarity to help me get the results?
Yeah. And I mean, right now I'm so like specific in particular with people I'm working with just because I have so many other things going on. And for me, I'm such an in-person person. So I've been fortunate to be able to do some of this virtually, but I want to be able to give my undivided attention to these people. I want to be able to make sure that they do see transformations and like really do gain that clarity. So it really does kind of, I break it down as the dream it, define it, do it, those 3Ds. So we really talk about what your dreams are, what your big goals are. And I believe in delusional goals. I'm like, I want to know how big they are. Like nothing's too crazy. Let's write it down. Let's filter this out. And then the define it piece is where, again, we kind of get ahead of ourselves, right? We're thinking too far ahead. We want all these things, but like we really have to get specific of defining it. So I help entrepreneurs really kind of gain that clarity of like what it is they really want, but how we're going to get there, the systems, and really clearly laying that out and what that start point looks like. And then from there, it's the do it. And we start laying out clear, actionable steps of, okay, what's the first step? And we don't get too far ahead. It really can start out with more of, I've done anywhere from just a 4-week expedited piece up to 12 plus weeks and kind of continuing on from there. So that's really kind of, it's more the foundational piece. And then once we get that foundation, then we kind of build off of that. And in the future, I definitely plan on doing like more higher level seminars and things along those lines. It's just right now, my hands are so tied in so many different places. And like I said, I prioritize the people I work with, making sure that I can customize to exactly their journeys. Again, entrepreneurs, our journeys are different. We all have the same mindsets when it comes down to it. Again, but a lot of it is getting out of our own way and getting clear on what that looks like for our own directions.
In terms of part of the secret to your success, so with JETSET and moving towards, it's a lot of time, it's a big commitment. Talk to us about behind the scenes, your team, your people. How, as an entrepreneur, I know it's always hard for me, do you let go of control? Have people come in and maybe they're more brilliant, even better than you, but maybe again, they're not. How do you balance that out? What's that looking like?
So I definitely used to be a control freak and I'm not anymore because again, I think it was in Dan Bartel's book, Buy Back Your Time. And he was talking about sometimes even just 80% done is better than 100% perfect if it saves you hours. And it's so true. To me, I value my time so much. And there really are just so many higher level things that I've really been able to focus and like kind of break down, like where does my attention really need to be? And having a team and building a team has been really critical. And fortunately, we're on our first location, working on our second location, already scouting for our third for JETSET. And our first like flagship team is incredible. I honestly am super grateful for all of them. They exceeded my expectations for a first level team. And I can't wait to see them grow with everything that we're doing. And then with Move Into Words, I've been really fortunate. I have a co-founder, but we have some really amazing volunteers that have really helped and stepped up to the plate and just are so passionate about the mission and the events that we do that they just want to be as close as they can to it. So, nonprofits work a little bit different than the Pilates studios, but I've definitely learned to delegate. And if I hadn't, one, you just turn into a micromanager, which even when I've been in employee positions, I never wanted to be micromanaged. I wanted that freedom. And I do really want to empower my team to show their creativity, and we hire them in their roles they should be for that reason. And I've seen them really even grow over the short period of time that they've been with us in such amazing ways. And it's really cool to continue to see them transform.
And what's interesting for the nonprofit moving towards, for so many entrepreneurs, if there's going to be a nonprofit, and many don't. So firstly, it's amazing that you've gone down that path. But for so many entrepreneurs, it's way down the journey, perhaps towards the end of the journey. They're in retirement phase. They've had an incredible career. Okay, let me give back. You're in the early part of your journey. And I'm wondering, what had you start moving towards? What was that impetus of, yeah, you know what? I'm still knocking things out there, still early in my career, but I'm going to start this nonprofit. I'm going to commit to this. What's going on with that?
So, I mean, again, for me, it really is giving back. And my co-founder, she's from Spain, and a lot of things over there are much cheaper, especially when it comes to healthcare and accessibility, where here it's not that way. So really, our entire mission is really about, like I said, cultivating a community for young professionals to thrive physically and mentally. So we prioritize providing the resources and the tools through events as well as journaling to be able to like really spread the awareness. And one thing that as AI continues to develop, as we have the accessibility with social media and just that type of connection, like we don't want to lose that in-person connection, that community, that really like connective piece. So that's a really foundational piece of the events that we do, everything like that we kind of bring together. And it just creates an amazing network. It allows, young professionals to thrive, not only physically and mentally, but as well as professionally. They meet people that may have job opportunities, and we're working on really different, really cool partnerships, sponsors, and things that will be able to elevate the people that are a part of our community even more. For me, it's just, I found a really big like lack of something like that in this area, and really just across the board, that I was like, if I don't do it, who's going to do it?
Wow.
I was like, let's give it a go. And so it's honestly been super successful, and there's such a big growth plan for it, and we're really excited to continue to grow it. But yeah, I mean, for me, I was just like, I know there's a need for this, and I know I can help.
I know you focus on young professionals mentally, physically, that they're thriving. But my goodness, that's not just an issue with them. I think just an issue for most people, not just entrepreneurs, for society in general. But for entrepreneurs, regardless if it's early in their career, later in the career, where do you think we're getting it wrong that we're finding ourselves in this situation to begin with? Or maybe it's always been like that. I don't know. It just seems like it's worse now than it has been in times past.
I think honestly, with social media and just everything at our fingertips, I think a comparison game has really caused the damper on a lot of people. I also just think that we are so overstimulated that we don't really prioritize just like the basics of our life, like eating good food, drinking water, moving your body, going for a walk, getting in nature. And those things alone, it's therapy. And I think that's where just providing the simple reminders that can make a big difference. And like for me, at least I know that's been huge, but it's also been huge for our community. And I think everybody kind of neglects that until they do receive those reminders, until they are in a supportive community that do prioritize the same things. So across the board, I think it's just we're so overstimulated and there's so much hustle and bustle that we kind of just forget to slow down. And that's across the board. It isn't just for young professionals, but that comparison game too of just being glued to our phones. I think that really ultimately is kind of a combination of a lot of different things without just taking a step back and kind of decompressing and kind of focusing, just prioritizing yourself.
And so, how do we unwind from that? What would be some strategies that are tried and true? And you've done this for moving towards and that community,
Mhm.
but for yourself as well. What would you suggest? What can we start doing?
I've mentioned journaling. Like I said, I think it's the most underrated tool. That's something intentional journaling, I think is more so the better word. Do it with actual purpose and intention. It's an amazing tool for mental clarity. Also, just movement. If your physical health is good, your mental health is going to be much better. And it doesn't have to be anything super crazy. Just walk. Just
Mhm.
walk. Get outside in nature. Eat nutritious foods. It's drink a lot of water. Like I said, I try to keep it as simple as possible because nowadays too, we are really overstimulated with buy this, buy that, quick fixes, when really it's just about creating strong, healthy habits and being consistent. That 80-20 rule, like it, if you're good 80% of the time, you can go eat pizza, you can still have beers, you can do whatever you want, you can live a life, right? But at the same time, like we have to create those strong routines and strong habits that are helping not fuel our bodies like physically, but ultimately it produces out mentally and shows up in our workplace and shows up in our businesses. So really just the mental, physical health side and moving is so important.
And so, at a high level, I get it. I completely agree. I know on paper it sounds easy. For a lot of entrepreneurs, actually doing this, if they've never done it before, it can be hard. So,
Yeah.
what would that look like? I know everyone's day is going to be different. Generally speaking, though, what would you suggest to us of, okay, you're starting your day at this point, do this, or don't do that, or think about going here or doing this? What does that
Yeah.
look like?
Honestly, it's accountability is really key. It's why
Hmm.
boutique fitness works, it's why gyms work. I think it's important to find something you enjoy though. You don't want it to feel like a chore. If somebody's, oh my gosh, come lift weights with me, and you're like, I don't like lifting weights. Okay, maybe try yoga, try Pilates. There's different things that you can try. Find something you actually enjoy because if you enjoy it, you're going to stick to it. If you don't like it, it's just going to be another thing on your to-do list that you have to do. And there's a lot of things, especially as entrepreneurs, that we have days where we really enjoy, and there's days where we're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do any of this. It's just a lot. So finding things where it becomes one of the better parts of your days, I think is really key. So that's for consistency, but also find accountability partners. And again, that's where you go to gyms. It becomes a community. You see people that you enjoy seeing. So find somewhere you enjoy going, but also you enjoy actually doing it. That alone will make a big difference. And we can make excuses all we want and be like, oh, I didn't like this, I didn't like that. There's so much opportunity for different gyms and different workouts nowadays that it's quite frankly not an excuse anymore. Like you could do literally anything. So it's carving out time in your day. The busiest people and the most successful people have always carved out time for their health, for giving back, for their family. They all have that balance. So it's just, again, it's an excuse if you're not carving out the time. It doesn't have to be in the morning. You don't have to have the perfect morning routine. Maybe you're not a morning person. That's fine. Do it in the evening, right? Find the time that works for you and carve out at least an hour for yourself. And it'll literally change your life.
Absolutely. So, moving, water, what we're eating, journaling for the mental side of things, just to give us that energy, that focus, and clarity. And Kayla, was interesting in our 90-day mastery program, Deep Wealth Mastery. We actually talk about this because as an entrepreneur, if I'm looking to close that huge deal, or if I'm looking to have the best deal when I'm having my exits, my legacy, my financial freedom are all on the line. I can't do it if I don't have that focus, if I don't have that energy, if I don't have that clarity, if I can't get out of bed because all the pressure is going to be there. So couldn't agree with you more. And maybe it's walking 15 minutes, 20 minutes after each meal, just to get around, step up, maybe every hour, 5, 10 minutes, just walk around or do some push ups or whatever it's going to be.
Mhm.
Just don't be at the desk for a gazillion hours at a time. Move around and change up things, get some scenery. Thoughts about that?
No, 100%. I could not agree more. And I think we get so locked in and we just, again, we make the excuse, oh my gosh, I had a long day, or I have to do this, I have to do that. But if you have a meeting on your calendar, you're probably not going to miss that meeting. Make it a meeting, put it on your calendar and start doing it. The hardest part is starting, just like anything, right? And I think as entrepreneurs, we know that though. We've already come across that hump. Like we've already started the hard thing. We've done hard things. And so the hardest part is getting started and making it a habit. But if you just can commit to it, even it takes 30 days to create a habit, block out 30 hours, 1 hour a day on your calendar. And like you said, walk. Even if it's 15-minute blocks, whatever it is, whatever works for you, it's just structuring it out and prioritizing those small things, simplifying it. Because I would say, too, as entrepreneurs, we are overwhelmed. We have a lot of other things that we have to simplify and help other people through. So when we have to do it for ourselves, it just becomes, again, more of a task. Make it as simple as possible, like dummy proof it, and just start making those small changes. Small changes lead to big differences.
Absolutely. The small changes day over day add up to huge results over time. So let me ask you this. One of the things that you talk about that I don't see a lot out there, it's forgiving ourselves, giving ourselves permission. Hey, it's okay. You messed up. Not a big deal. You'll figure things out. So what's going on with that? What are you seeing? What would you like us to know?
Oh, yeah. I also think about, here's the thing, I don't think we can really truly forgive other people if we don't know how to forgive ourselves. I think when it's hard, it's a hard thing, right? But I also think it allows us, it gives us permission to fail more often too, because we know that we're going to be able to bounce back. We're not going to be so hard on ourselves. Like we're going to say, okay, we messed up. And we are going to be able to move on from that. If we hold grudges against ourselves, we're never going to be able to become the best versions of ourselves. And ultimately, I think too, if we can like really remove like the things that have happened or things that we've done, like on a higher level, no one thinks about ourselves as much as we do, right? No one does, like at all. And so it's separating that piece and realizing like you're the only one internalizing these thoughts about yourself, right? Somebody's going to have their own opinion. They don't really think about it that much, right? Let them have their opinion, let them do their own thing. But at the end of the day, what you believe in yourself and what you think about yourself, your internal narrative about yourself is what's really going to carry you through every day and like truly what your success really depends on. And without being able to let things truly go and move on, it's gonna be really hard to break certain barriers. So that's why I'm such a proponent of it. The holding grudges is just extra weight that we don't need. It creates extra clump space when really it should be open for clarity.
And it's going to be odd talking about this on a business podcast. When it comes to forgiveness, though, can you walk us through that? Because forgiveness, again, on paper, it sounds so easy. Most people, I know for myself as an example, took me a long time to really figure it out. And I really wasn't forgiving, or I was doing it for the wrong reasons. And I was just fooling myself. Finally, got most of it right, I think. Still learn every day. But that said, what's forgiveness really? And how, Kayla, if I can make it personal for a moment, how would you forgive someone perhaps has crossed a line with you? And it could be on the business side, could be the personal side. What are you doing on the forgiveness side to really just let it go, to cleanse yourself of that and be able to move forward in the best of ways?
I think there's different scenarios for everything, right? I think different people handle things differently. I think obviously severity of certain things can carry weight longer than other things. So each situation does kind of have its own proponent, but I also think it's just taking a step back. Obviously, depending on how bad it is, like you're going to be really mad. Like there was a situation for me recently where we had an employee that we hired, really did us wrong, threatened to sue us. Like it was a whole mess. And I haven't seen red in a long time, but I was at dinner and I was going nauseous and cross-eyed. Like I was so angry. And I said everything under the books in terms of what I wanted to do. And a couple days later, I just processed it and I was like, you know what? This truly is a silver lining. Honestly, the person that took her position has become amazing, right? And I think kind of like really just reframing the narrative and understanding that things do truly happen for reasons. And if you can't see the the silver lining or the light at the end of the tunnel immediately, know it's coming. And maybe for certain situations, it might take a little longer to forgive. But at the end of the day, if you don't just let that go and like truly again reframe that situation and know that there are other priorities that need your attention. And if you're still stuck on that, you're not gonna be able to give it there. And ultimately that person's kind of taking your power too. They have a hold on you if you're not being able to forgive them for certain things. So I think kind of just again reframing that is super, super important. And it's messy. It's kind of like healing in a sense. Like it's not a straight line. It just takes time and it takes you actually being aware of it too.
Absolutely. And what took me a while to figure out, forgiveness is not to say that the other person, that we're making it right what they did and that it's okay with what they did. Forgiveness, it's really more for ourselves than anything else. Otherwise, it's in our system and it's festering away. It's not going to lead to anything good. And to forgive, how I look at it, would love your thoughts on this, is okay, I'm going to forgive the situation or this person, but I'm doing it for me
Mhm.
first and foremost. And doesn't make it right what the other person did, but I've got to let it go. Need to get it out of my system and take the higher road.
Yeah, no, 100%. Exactly. Because otherwise they have power over you. Like they have a hold on you rather than just like letting it go and moving on. So 100%, a lot of times forgiveness is for yourself. And that's where it comes back on like forgiving yourself is just as important and being able to move on from there because it is, at that point, no one else is involved, but it is for you. Like you have to be able to release that.
Absolutely. And so, all of what we're talking about, let's just pick a worst day for you. Sorry to do this. Don't want to bring you down. I'm always glass half full. You're doing something with JETSET, and then at the same time with a nonprofit, nothing's going right. It's put
Yeah.
you just in the worst miserable mood. And it's like, why me? Why today? Let me crawl back into bed. I don't want to deal with any of this stuff. So, Kayla, how are you dealing with that person? Can you share, as really the master out there who's changing lives and just busting down the doors and making a difference, when the you know what hits the fan for you and you're
Yeah.
human and you have those moments? Absolutely. What are some things that work for you?
Oh my gosh. It's funny because I actually am like not super dramatic. So I'm able to handle like high, crazy stress situations, like the most chaotic situations. I'm like actually very calm, even kill. But sometimes in like this, like the little situations, I like freak out for no reason. So I'm like kind of that like different person in that sense. Honestly, sometimes I just have to take a step away and you really do. And I think everyone handles things differently, but sometimes, especially when we're really stressed out or we're really freaking out or everything's going to crap and you want to say all these things that really in the moment are just essentially projecting rather than what it means, you have to pause. You have to bite your tongue, especially as an entrepreneur, because one, it could offend the wrong person. It could cause more damage than was already being done. And just step away. I think that's the easiest, simplest thing. Take a moment, regroup, know it's temporary. And, sometimes it might be just call it a day. If the world isn't burning down, maybe you just need a day. Maybe it's just those things that like, let's attend to this tomorrow. And I've had days like that. I'm like, you know what? I'm good. I think if I touch anything else, it is going to break. So like, I'm just going to step away, so I think it is really truly that self-awareness, but also not letting it get the best of you, not letting it bring you down, knowing again that it is temporary and it will be fixed.
And with that in mind, I'm actually going back to your book, and a few of the chapters, or the strategies as I like to call them, come to mind with this next question. Chapter 2, never quit on yourself. And then chapter 7, be confident, become courageous. Those really stood out for me. And I know, looking back on my journey, and I'm not alone with this, but it'll be a data point of one. I'll put myself under the microscope. Particularly early on, I struggled. I really struggled living up to expectations around me, whether it be family or on the business side, people in the company or business partners, where perhaps that worked for them, but it just didn't work for me. And it was a constant struggle internally with me. How do you suggest, or what would you suggest in terms of strategies? How do we deal with that as an entrepreneur where, again, we can forgive ourselves, but really for those around us, hey, that's just not my style, or that's not what it's really all about for me. Here's where it really is. So we can show up as our true selves and be authentic.
And again, I think it really does come back down to getting clear and committing to yourself. It's easy to want to, like I say, checking off the boxes of society, going down the list, checking this mark, rather than defining, creating, and designing and checking off our own boxes, right? Which is where we all have to really start. Because if we're doing all these things and we're going through the motions, kind of as I write in my book, as I was, and we're just checking all these boxes, there's really no fulfillment. There's really no growth. As you said, doesn't really work for you. And then until you can really again, design and create and figure out what really does work for you, nothing feels right. It almost feels forced. And as I've continued to grow in my journey, I can tell now when things aren't right because I just am trying too hard or it's just not working. But then when things are meant for me and things are in alignment, like it all starts to flow. It's a lot of work, it's hard work, but it's easy in a sense. And, I think really committing to that feeling and like defining again, really like what your true self looks like. What do you enjoy? Why do you do it? And becoming intentional with that, not only just through your thoughts, but your actions and making the hard choices and going for it. That's when things start to fall in a line. It might not make sense when you decide to do these decisions. There are things that, even like I'm sure my parents are like, she's doing what now? And then, it starts to fall into place. And you kind of get into that groove. And it really is committing to not focusing on what other people think about you. Like external validation means nothing. It's finding that internal reference point and staying true to that.
And I suspect the very process of, okay, who am I really? What do I stand for? How am I going to stand up and address this? Just the act of doing that, and then going back to one of your other strategies with the journaling. Let me write this out. And actually, a couple of stories come to mind. I'm reminded of Abraham Lincoln. They found all these incredibly nasty letters that he had written for, at the time, some of his political foes. Never sent them, but he wrote it just to get it out of his system. Actually, some of those people later became his friends. And if it would have been email back in the day, he would have written the email, but never sent it, kept it in draft mode, just so he can get it out of the way. And it's so true that journaling, it's a superpower, an underrated superpower that can really help
Yes.
us. And having that clarity, and I'll put the other C word, courage, to,
Yes.
hey, I know this may work for you, but it doesn't work for me. And let's figure out how both of us can walk away with a win-win. And just going through that is some terrific advice. Speaking of advice, before we go into wrap-up mode, Kayla, I know there are so many questions I had that I haven't yet asked, unfortunately. Is there one question I haven't asked, or even a topic, a message, a theme we haven't covered that you want to get out to Deep Wealth Nation before we go into wrap-up mode?
Yeah, I think actually, because I'm writing a talk on this now, and I think it's really important for young entrepreneurs, even later entrepreneurs. A lot of our narrative is around imposter syndrome. And I don't actually believe imposter syndrome is real at all. I believe it's actually self-doubt that we allow to fester and build up. And when we start to really create big things, or we're kind of in that beginning phase, maybe we're paralyzed by, oh my gosh, is this going to work? And we're doing all these successful things, but then like we don't actually really like accept that. I don't think I'm worthy of this, or I'm focused on, can't really take essentially compliments. And it's kind of reframing that. And I know this is a little different than kind of what we talked about, but I also think imposter syndrome is a big thing that holds a lot of entrepreneurs back. And even like ones that I've worked with and I've talked to. And it's really reframing the fact that like self-doubt is really what imposter syndrome is. Imposter syndrome isn't real. It's just a behavioral pattern. So we can interrupt, we can change. And again, it does become with that clarity of self-doubt is really all that is. Just like we feel pain, but we choose suffering. We are going to feel self-doubt, but we can choose to label as imposter syndrome and stay stuck there, or we overcome the self-doubt and we continue to build the big things that we're working on. So it's kind of a little bit of an off topic, but I think it's something that's really important. And the thing that I'm seeing with other trends of entrepreneurs that's starting to hold them back is feeling like they're just like a fraud and they're not worthy enough of creating these big things that they want when 100% you are.
Absolutely. Imposter syndrome, worthy, feeling like a fraud. My goodness, I go through that, Kayla, every day,
Yeah.
even now, even after some of the big successes, it's all there. But it really goes back to some of the things that we've been talking about of, hey, really embracing myself and loving myself, if I can use that word, and having that respect for myself so that I can have respect for the others around me, and just showing up, knowing I'm human and doing the best that I can. So it's some great
Yeah.
advice. And speaking of advice, it's a tradition here on the Deep Wealth Podcast. It's really my honor and my privilege where every guest I ask the same question. It's a fun one. So let me set this up for you. When you think of the movie Back to the Future, you have that magical DeLorean car that will take you to any point in time. So, Kayla, imagine now it's tomorrow morning. This is the fun part. You look outside your window, the DeLorean car is curbside, doors open. You're going to hop on and you're going to go to any point in your life. Kayla, as a young child, a teenager, whatever point in time it would be, what would you tell your younger self in terms of life lessons or life wisdom? Or, hey, Kayla, do this, but don't do that. What would it sound like?
I would definitely go back to my college years and say, follow your dreams more. I think I started compromising at that time and stay true to yourself. I think that's when I started to lose myself. So everything that I'm like really empowering and reaching out and hoping the message lands with many people, no matter what age you're in. But I remember I was very confident. I was very set on what I wanted to do. And then I started compromising. I didn't sacrifice, I compromised. And so I would like to go back to myself then and say, stay true to yourself. And I don't regret anything. But if I had a little like birdie in my ear, the book that I wrote, if I had that book at that time, I think some things would have been a little bit different. And so, yeah, I would definitely go back and stay true to yourself and don't compromise.
I love that. Follow your dreams, stay true to yourself. It's such great advice. And you know what? It's simple, but not to confuse simple with simplicity. It's really powerful and
For sure.
it's something that everyone can benefit from. Speaking of benefiting, so Kayla, someone in the Deep Wealth Nation, they have a question for you. They want to go through your deep squeeze system, or they want to go to one of your move into words events. They just want to have a conversation with you. They want to learn from you. Where would be the best place online to reach you?
So my website, Kayla Logue, Logue.com, has all of my things. It has my social media, it has my podcast, it has my deep squeeze system, it has my move into words, my nonprofit. You can email me directly there. All of my social handles are there. You can go to my Instagram, you can DM me, LinkedIn, anything. I love getting messages. I respond directly to everybody on all of my personal platforms. So it's me that's responding. If you go to my other businesses, it's probably not me responding. But if you go to my personal platforms, I love hearing the messages. I definitely want to speak to you. Would love to help in any way that I can. So yeah, website's the best like host for all the things.
And Deep Wealth Nation, the great news, it doesn't get any easier. It's just a point and click. Go to the show notes. All the links are there for you. We've done the heavy lifting for you. So that said, Kayla, congratulations. It's official. This is a wrap. And as we love to say here at Deep Wealth, may you continue to thrive and prosper while you remain healthy and safe. Thank you so much. So there you have it, Deep Wealth Nation. What did you think? So with all that said, and as we wrap it up, I have another question for you. Actually, it's more of a personal favor. Did you find this episode helpful? Have you found other episodes of the Deep Wealth Podcast empowering and a game changer for your journey? And if you said yes, and I really hope you did, I have a small but really meaningful way that you can actually help us out and keep these episodes coming to you. Are you ready for it? The dramatic pause. I'll just wait a moment. Drum roll, please. Subscribe. Please subscribe to the Deep Wealth Podcast on your favorite podcast channel. When you subscribe to the Deep Wealth Podcast, you're saving yourself time. Every episode automatically comes to you. And I want you to know that we meticulously craft every one of our episodes to have impactful strategies, stories, expert insights that are designed to help you grow your profits, increase the value of your business, and yes, even optimize your post-exit life and your life right now, whatever you want that to look like. And every time you subscribe and a fellow entrepreneur subscribe, it's a testament to how together, yes, we are changing the social fabric of society. One business owner at a time, one liquidity event at a time. So don't let the momentum stop here. Subscribe now on your favorite podcast channel. You'll never miss an episode. You'll be the first to hear from the top industry leaders, the innovators, the disruptors that are really changing and shaping the business world. And maybe you're commuting, maybe you're at the gym, maybe you're taking a well-deserved break that we spoke all about on this episode. The Deep Wealth Podcast, it's your reliable source for the next big idea that could literally revolutionize your business. So once again, please hit that subscribe button, stay connected, inspired, and ahead of the curve. And again, your next big breakthrough moment, it might just be one episode away. Maybe it was even this episode. So all that said, thank you so much for listening. And remember, your wealth isn't just about the money in the bank. It's about the depth of your journey and the impact that you're creating. So let's continue this journey together. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for listening to this episode. And as we love to say here at Deep Wealth, may you continue to thrive and prosper while you remain healthy and safe. Thank you so much. God bless.